Steve, we punted to Tuesday this week, and that was a good decision.
Why? Why did we punt?
Because we wanted to talk about Penn State's basketball game against Campbell that's happening right now. That's why.
Okay.
I feel like we are uniquely situated on this podcast to discuss this. The name of this podcast is Stuff Summer Says with
Steve.
We are going to spend probably the next 35 minutes, 40 minutes filling your ears with the sounds of, I don't want to say we told you so, but kind of we told you so. I don't know how else to say it. Okay. So why did we actually punt? Well, last night, it seemed like there was some smoke around the fact that Penn State had potentially made a hire in Kalani Sitake, who is the BYU head coach, who has been a BYU lifer, who is a member of the Church of Latter-day Saints, which I think is an aspect of this that we can get to as well. It seemed like Pat Kraft was going to be the one that would pull him out of Utah and bring him into State College. And so it seemed like probably about 5 o'clock yesterday that there was going to be a team meeting. This was all said and done. And here we are. And we were talking about a new Penn State having a new coach. And then sure enough, the crumble cookie guy got involved. And it has been for Pat Kraft and Penn State all downhill from here. Fair to say?
Guess that's the way the coach search crumbles.
I'm glad I said.
I know how you teed it up.
Have you been? Let's start there. Have you been to a crumble cookie?
I have.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
And I have purchased them as gifts. Yeah.
Okay.
Because if Susan's traveling or something, that's always hey, while you're there, here's some cookies.
Okay, all right. I was not sure. Because I just can't imagine you spending that much money on a cookie.
I can't imagine it when I do it either. Yeah. That's why it's only for her. So.
Needless to say, I won't be spending any money on a crumble cookie anytime
soon. Maybe there'll be a crumble cookie boycott coming to Happy Valley.
No, all right. That's enough of the jokes. I think we got most of our jokes out of the way. There will be more jokes in the process here. I guess we can begin here, as I alluded to a little bit. For as pro James Franklin as we were up until he lost to UCLA, I don't think we've been anti-Pat Kraft, but I don't think we have fallen for the love affair that many other Penn Staters have fallen for with Pat Kraft. And I kind of started to warm up to that and warm around to Pat Kraft because I think he was making some good decisions of late. And then it's all fallen through in the last 3 hours, since it was announced that Sitake was going to go back to BYU. And I asked this question to begin rhetorically. What about the monster that Pat Kraft was supposedly creating? Because I can't find it. It's not a scary one. That's for sure.
You were off the island and on the island, and now you're back off the island?
Yeah, correct. We are. I am full flag of flying, you know? I think about, here's what I want to think about or talk about. I think I sent you this when it first came out. LeVar Arrington on Roar Plus did an interview with Pat Kraft this offseason. Or I don't know when it was done. It was after Roar Plus had come out. And Pat Kraft said, I don't like being in the spotlight. I'm not about the media and things like that. Kind of chuckled at it because that has been Pat Kraft's MO, even if he isn't necessarily in the face of the media, where he is kind of always there on the sidelines, very visible. We've seen him after every game. We've seen him during every football game. And I think about the fact that he said that, and now here we are, and the spotlight sure is on him. And I think in a lot of ways, he screwed this up. And I do not know, not necessarily how we can move forward from this, but how we can watch him figure this out and watch him, trust him in this process. I think would be the best way to say that. This search has been pretty much, based on things I've read, heard, talked to people, has pretty much been insularly Pat Kraft. This has pretty much been a committee of one. I've said that the whole time. I even said during this whole process, I don't think we know the name yet. I had heard a name last week, and it was not this name. And I was like, okay, I think we maybe are starting to hear the name a little bit more. But I think that throughout this entire process, we were not going to hear the name. We had not heard the name. And I think the whole singularity of this process for Pat Kraft, and yes, he does have a small inner circle, I think has just absolutely backfired. And I don't know that coaches searching committees are anything more than a sham. In a same way, what are those people that do? What are they? What are the big
Consultants?
consultants?
Hiring firms?
Yeah, consultants are. But it certainly feels like this process did not have the checks and balances that we need, and I don't know how they fix it. Well, I have more that I want to get into. I have other thoughts, but I'll shut up there because I've been talking for 5 minutes now.
I think it feels like the emotions of where Penn State fans are with this process of hiring a new coach, and even the process itself, has felt emotional from the start, and in fact, perhaps a bit disingenuous from the start. When well, maybe not. When you say that Coach Franklin was fired, it wasn't about those 2 games. Well, maybe not. But if you're not going to say the other underlying reasons, which perhaps there were underlying reasons, whether he tried to get a raise, whether the relationship wasn't there, certainly felt like it was about losing 2 games. And then the party line was, no, it's not about those 2 games. There were other things, even though the other things weren't shared. And if there was a plan in this process, and you would believe there was, it somewhere along the line went south. Whether that was when Matt Rule's team started losing games, whether that was when other guys started getting extensions because this was open, whether it was you didn't think about the timing of this and how it was going to affect other schools. It was like a domino was pushed to get rid of James Franklin, and there was no thought about the rest of that domino layout and where it was going to go. And I think that's what it feels like is playing out now. The plan could never have been, and whenever they hire this person, it's going to be the only person who was offered the job. I mean, that's just how you do this. You get close enough that you don't actually offer them the job. You talk about it, so you have the plausible deniability to say they're the person we offered the job. But there was no way the plan was to not have a coach on signing day. And that is within hours.
Okay.
So what's happening when you listen to this?
You said a lot there. I'm going to write down a few things because I want to come back. Let's talk about the plan, because I think that's the biggest part of this. I think actually this, based on what we've read or the documentation that we have from Pat Kraft, which was that press conference, I actually think this is on schedule, or this was the plan all along to make a hire this week, not early. But I think he was okay based on how many times he brought up the portal in that speech. He doesn't bring up recruiting classes. He brought up the portal, that I think he was okay with maybe potentially having to wait a little bit longer. And I think that's kind of why I'm like not full pitchfork and fire right now. But I think that's an important part in this process. I do think, though, to your point, just based on read, heard, seen things, I think the pecking order was Matt Rule won, and Matt Rule didn't want the job. And I think there's a bunch of different reasons that we may never find out that why Matt Rule didn't want that job. I think he didn't want to go into business with his friend. I also don't think he wanted to ruin 2 avenues in his life, right? Like, he ruins his friendship with Pat Kraft, which is reportedly very close. And then he ruins his feelings about his alma mater, which he's very passionate still about Penn State. You can kind of hear that in the way he talks. So I think that was one. And I think if he wanted the job, Matt Rule wanted the job, he would have just kept pushing their Nebraska contract extension off. And I think that's fine. I don't think, all things considered, I didn't want Matt Rule. Not the name that I wanted in this process. I think Elko was the 2. And I think that was going to be the biggest swing of the bunch because of Elko's tie to the region. I think it made a lot of sense because he was a fan of Penn State growing up and all of these other things. But I think practically speaking, it was probably just as tough or maybe even tougher of a sell with with how much oil money sits at Texas A&M and how hard that would be to kind of win that over, plus the timeline of the fact that their football season was going really well. I think that's an important part of this. And so that's how we got to Sitake. I mean, this has been a month-long process, it seems like, based on what's kind of been reported now. We've been hearing about this quote-unquote mystery man for a couple weeks now. Adam Brenneman kind of started the whole mystery man thing, but it kind of has been on the message boards from the actual people that are paid to post stuff on the message boards for about that long. John and Audrey both kind of alluded to that as well. I think this had kind of appeared to be the hire, and I think that's fine, and we can get into kind of how I would have felt about the hire too. But I think my issue with it is it had to work. It was too all in. It was too going to the table, like, pardon the cliched, all in, pushing all the chips in, but like it was too much for it to not work. And I just think that at the end of the day, he did not treat the fact that this guy is Mormon, this university, like, that's the thing about this process, or this candidate in particular, is for Sitake, like, it's not like you and I who have a Penn State degree. This is also like the faith aspect. Like this is a very big pillar of this person's life, and that mixed into this, I think, also played into it. And so I think Kraft underestimated that, and then underestimated what that hire or what Sitake means to BYU. And we literally saw that thanks to the crumble cookie guy and some other people over the course of the last 24 hours, kind of crumble down. I'm so sorry. That I think for as risky as a hire it would have been, it was a risky choice to begin with, but it was a risky choice to go after this guy. And now it's kind of like we're just sitting here, what do you do? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Young chimed in from the BYU side. I certainly respect the faith aspect. I mean, Cale Sanderson has come here, and there have been people that location doesn't matter so much about your faith if you're Mormon, although that's obviously the holy ground zero of it. So I think maybe this, let's say this was the plan. Let's give the grace of that. This was the plan. It was a sitting coach who's a consistent winner, fullback, kind of gets the whole Pat Kraft rah-rah mentality. We're going to fight and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, if that's the plan, and maybe doing it differently from everybody else is okay in this time. You know, you don't have to be the first. If you're going to give up a recruiting class, for lack of a better, and what everybody will say, you're going to get 4 or 5 kids. Maybe changing that process is good, and trying to approach it in a different way is good. But what if it doesn't go right? What if it doesn't? And it feels like that's where they're at now. And it is the AD's job. I'm glad there's not a search committee. I'm glad there's not some big firm. It doesn't feel like this is not complicated, but maybe more people around the table would say, okay, well, let's talk about the what ifs. Let's line up the stuff. So maybe a little bit of groupthink prevents getting near the end of the finish line and not having things happen. So maybe a group would be better. But this is the AD's job. The AD realistically has one job. You know, when you were on the island, it was about putting teams in positions to succeed and supporting them and whatever else. And that's about all the person has to do. I mean, not all. I mean, you have to raise money. But this is the job. Hiring these kind of coaches, the top 3 or 4 coaches at your program, is the job. So it's okay that it's his decision. But yeah, this doesn't feel like the plan in any way, shape, or form. And it's not going to finish that way. So it's an uncertain time. It's just the most beautiful thing to watch from the side, to not have a rooting interest realistically. I mean, I'm interested in Penn State football, support it, but to watch this play out, it's been kind of fun because the national media doesn't have a lot of sense because it is a small group. It's a pretty insular group that's doing it, whether it's Kraft and a couple people or just Kraft. And I don't know that the local people have that much insight otherwise either. It's just you're getting bits and pieces from what they're going to share with you. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that there hasn't been felt like, even though there were hot boards, right? We've talked about it still feels like a group think piece of reporting. It's not like somebody's been out here doing something totally different. But I think that's the way any coaching search is. You just don't know a lot. But it's been hard to, it's got to be entertaining to be informed, right? Because there's the hot boards, there's the changes, there's the stuff to follow up. So it's entertaining. I just don't know that there's that much value in all those reports until it happens, because I don't know that anybody really knows, and they may have known less in this one than in some other ones, because the people doing the hiring was a smaller group.
Yes and, or yes and no and.
Sure, go ahead.
I think.
I mean, I may not be respecting the work that people are doing.
So I think
glad to talk about that.
I don't think you were disrespectful there. I think you are. I think you make a good point. I do think the national media shifted to Kiffin. Like that has been the non X's and O's story last 2-3 weeks. We had the whole like pretty much up until James Franklin was on game day was the James Franklin was in the spotlight, and then it kind of came back, but it was a different when he got hired at Virginia Tech, it was different. So I think there's that. I do think the local media, and I think in general, I think we've seen, and obviously this is the first real coaching search, more or less, in some ways, but I think we saw more morsels of information come out. I don't think we saw like the whole thing. I do think some places did a better job than others. I think Tyler Donahue did a great job this week. Like, I really think that their coverage is like, I got a lot of value out of my, and still getting a lot of value out of my 24/7. I think John Dauber and Audrey did a great job. I think there's that. I think that's an aspect to it. I do think that I understand where you're coming from. The group, like, there's only so many sources.
Right, it's not real big.
Like realistically, I don't think for the level of sources that they were getting, I don't think it was maybe it was probably one or two people. Like, and that's not like, it's not a knock on anyone there. I just think that's like trying to give you insight of how we think that played out. So I think there's that. Back to the coaching search firm, or the groupthink aspect of it. I think what's frustrating is the bravado of Pat Kraft that, we're gonna get this right, we're gonna nail it. Like I'm gonna stand on the sidelines and be right locking arms with this guy, right? And like that kind of backfired in some ways. So I do think you make a good point. Like, this is Pat Kraft's job. At the same time, and I don't think necessarily like a search firm. I think it may be like Pat Kraft and a former player, a trusted former player. I don't know who that would be right now, honestly. That could potentially like fit into this. I think all of those are good points.
And that's who he is. He is.
No, I think it's fair.
Bravado, and don't, I mean, going back to the start, don't look at me, but look at me. Here I am doing my job. I'm fighting for you. We're not going to start on the road in conference play. I'm fighting for you. We're going to get respect for this. I just need you to do your job. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the James Franklin thing, kind of the same way. Don't do the 1-0 stuff for the people who don't like that and just win games. That's his brand. He did 1-0. He engaged people. This is Pat Kraft's brand. He's a little bit loud and vocal and see me while I'm doing it kind of thing, which it feels like. I don't know that I've seen the PhD geek Pat Kraft that he referenced during that news conference about wanting to see stuff. I don't see that, and I don't feel that's as much. I respect the degree and that he earned it. I just don't think that's his personality. I think he's the linebacker who goes about doing these things, and I do feel from the Franklin firing, and again, the underlying tones of when we asked for extra money or didn't. And now as Jimmy Sexton ticked off at us to Penn State because of the way we treated his client, there's been a lot of emotion as an undertone in this very not as public process, almost probably as much emotion as the Kiffin one in some ways. It just wasn't played out.
With the governor.
Right, with the governor and with Kiffin doing stuff on social media and whatever else. So, and here you are, and then there's more emotion to come, because if it's not Terry Smith in it, if it was Terry Smith, it would have happened Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Every day that it goes that it's not Terry Smith, for those of the people that are in that camp, Terry Smith knows that Penn State has made a conscious decision not to ask him to do this job already. So there'll be emotion there when that comes around, that if it comes around there. I guess I'd be surprised if it did. Because it's clear that that's not the choice that Pat Kraft is looking to make.
Let me build up to that point, because I think you're onto something there. I think I agree with you. I said this week that this is the knock. If we're gonna find the X's and O's coaching knock against Sitake for Penn State, it is the fact that he's basically coached in Utah all of his life. Like he's lived outside of Utah, but he's never lived east of other than when he played for the Bengals. He's never lived east of the Mississippi, and he played for the Bengals for like a week. So he doesn't really have the recruiting ties. But I think in some ways this hire was, which I think a lot of things is what Pat Kraft does, is feeling the threat from Oregon and USC maybe potentially under Penn State, as opposed to threatening Ohio State. I think that was part of what the Polynesian aspect of, like, okay, this is a coast to coast country conference. We now need to tap into all of these other spots. So I think the plan probably was to hire him, keep Terry Smith some sort of role that controls your local traditional recruiting methods, and I think that's great. But that is really unique, and that's really different. And I think, to Pat Kraft's credit, from the business perspective, he's been all about unique, different. Just because we've done something, he's literally said this verbatim, just because we've done something before doesn't mean we have to continue to do it. And I think he, at least here, we don't know who the next candidate on the pecking order is right now, has at least tried that. And that's what was so risky about this hire, that now it's like, we just spent all this time, momentum, energy into this guy, who, by the way, like, he's the opposite of James Franklin. Like, his wife is posting on Instagram. He's doing videos with his daughters on Instagram. Like, he's got a great personality. Like, as I read more into him, like, I really started to like this guy, because he seemed like a fun, seemed like he enjoys life. He enjoys being a college football coach, and doesn't take it too seriously. And I think in some ways that's potentially what Penn State needs. Not somebody who's like kind of wound as tight as James Franklin was. Mm-hmm. So all of that is to say, like, I just think that was so inherently risky that this is now backfired on Kraft, that it's like back to your point of like, oh, this is the person we offered. I don't know that Terry, like, I think Pat Kraft killed all of the momentum, all of the good juju, all of the good whatever that was coming out of the like post Terry Smith. And then the Rutgers game goes almost horribly to, we found this guy that's like really unique and fun and different, and is going to create a spark that Penn State needs. He killed all of that today by not thinking through the possibility of the fact that this guy would stay at BYU. I think that's the biggest thing with this. And I think, to your point, like, when and if he gets up there and is like, okay, this is the person, this was the person we wanted all along. I think it's going to be an awkward moment that I don't know how Pat Kraft, between a $700 million stadium renovation and all these other points, all these other changes, all the names on the field, ads on the field, 1,600 ribbon boards, all of these other changes, like, I don't know how you trust Pat Kraft now. It's going to be hard to trust Pat Kraft back.
Interesting. I don't know about you. I think rolling this next person out whenever it is has just gotten more sticky because it's taken so long. Because the accepted timeline has now passed for what people would expect, even though Penn State's only had, they've had more coaching changes in the past 15 years than they had in the previous 40. It feels like, well, almost.
No, literally.
So, right. So it's different from that standpoint, but it's just going to be hard to sell the next person, because people know that other people passed on the gig, or they didn't find it appealing, or it wasn't the right time for them, or whatever else, just because so much more has played out publicly. And I don't suppose we're lucky enough that Pat Kraft's wife was like the third person that dated him or something, right? And he can say, And you can't say that, oh, she's my third choice, and here we are 20 years later. So that probably doesn't help him out. No, it's going to be, it's a tougher rollout. But Penn State fans are not, Penn State game fans will be at game one next year because the tickets
100%.
were the same price as whatever else. They're going to be there to see what's going on. I do think in some ways the process, it's got a little less for new fans for them to be mad about because, hey, this guy who's promising stuff didn't happen. And it's got a little less for old fans because, hey, this guy who could easily hire Terry Smith didn't do it. So in some ways, this process could work to make everybody sort of grumpy or at least impatient. I don't know that people are grumpy, but, and I think it could still be, if somebody loses in the first round of the playoffs or a conference championship game and wants to find another place to be, I guess you could have a big swing there. It just feels like it's pretty late in the game for all the big swings to have happened too. So, and final, and with, is the Penn State job as appealing on the outside as people on the inside think it is?
I've been thinking about this, and I think that's a good question. I think it is interesting that if we count Roll, we count Elko, we count Sitake, maybe we throw Drinkowitz in there, maybe we throw Bob Chesney in the fact that he didn't push harder for it to go, and now he wants to go to UCLA apparently, or is signed at UCLA apparently. Like the things that we've heard about working with Pat Kraft and how intense he is that turning people off, I think. And that, like, to me, that feels like a bigger issue than, because I think Penn State's always, I was thinking about this, like, with Sitake and the fact that he's, like, he would have come in just completely blind, basically. Like, he has no connections to the area. I think BYU's had 2 kids from, like, Pennsylvania and Maryland over the last 5 years or something like that. I think that, but still, like, Penn State is always going to sell itself. The opportunity to play at a Big Ten school is always going to sell itself. The opportunity to play for 107,000 people every week, no matter what, to your point, is always going to sell itself. So I think it's a desirable.
Adidas' number one school,
right? You're now Adidas' number one school. I think it's always going to have a staying power. I don't know where it is. Like I don't know where it is, and I thought it was getting better with James Franklin, and then that all went out the window. So I don't know. I think that's all. I think that's how I would answer that question. Is like, I think it's. I don't know that it is. I don't know that it's Alabama, right, or even Georgia, but I don't think it's South Carolina.
Okay.
I think.
Well, let me ask about your expectations then. What are your So people, when James Franklin goes to Virginia Tech, oh, he's going to win there pretty quickly. They're going to be happy. It's going to be good. In this era of the transfer portal, as one more piece of context, it doesn't take long for a team to be good in the transfer portal. But Penn State is going to give up a recruiting class. I mean, for all intents and purposes, they're giving up a recruiting class, which has been through all the coaches in my lifetime, all 3 of them. This is what we do. We recruit there, and maybe we'll fill some holes as the New World Order came in with transfers. There will be a lot of turnover this season, no matter what happens, it feels like. No matter who's named, players are going to leave, other people are going to bring some people with them. Can Penn State, what are your expectations of, no matter who it is, if it's the best possible remaining hire, what are your expectations of performance, and what is your level of willingness to be patient for the next year or 2, or should it not take that long?
Well, so this kind of brings me to the Terry Smith point, right? Like, I don't know that you can hire him, not from the fact that, like, you can hire him, like, not from, like, the button and all of that stuff, and we could save that for something. We talked about it last week, I think. But, like, the whole curb appeal of hiring an outside hire head coach is that you are going to get either his recruiting class, which if you did it by today or yesterday or whenever, you were going to get that involved. So there was that. Or you were going to get at the transfer portal window a bunch of kids to come with him. And, like, I don't think that can happen with Terry Smith. Like, I don't know, maybe it's like 20 seniors. Let's call it the average. I don't forget what the number is this year. You're only going to replace that with 7. You're going to have to go out and get all these portal kids. And I don't, it really feels a lot harder to do when you don't have the base there of the portal. So to answer your expectations question, I mean, and we've talked about this before, I thought the plan was 2026 with kind of a stinker of a schedule. Maybe you get lucky and you go 10-2 and you happen into a playoff, but like that's a high expectation. I thought the plan was to go into 2027 when you open up a $700 million stadium renovation with a really good football team. And now I don't know that that's possible. And I think that adds to like the whole Pat Crack miss, because that's Pat. We are one thing, 1A and 1B are the coaching and the stadium in terms of his legacy. And I think we'll see. I mean, like, this is why I'm also not like to your point, God knows what could happen this weekend, like with any of the conference championship games. Who knows what could happen with the playoffs even? Like, you could go hire someone and steal someone, and it could be a really good hire. It could be a big name. Or it could not. We just don't know how it's going to work out. But like, we have to grade what's in front of us, and then we need to talk about the scenario that is in that kind of feels like it's most likely in the future, which is, to your point, keeping Terry Smith. I don't know that it's necessarily something I want. I think between the way Penn State played against Rutgers, between just a lot of different things, and the way I feel about the quote unquote Penn State political climate, like I want to move forward. I guess.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Okay. I think Pat Kraft wants to move forward as well. And I think how he thought he was going to do it hasn't played out how he thought he was going to do it.
No, I think that is 100% accurate. I think we've hit pretty much everything here. Any
chance Pat Kraft's the coach?
At this point, they might be calling you. What are we running, the Veer?
No. I'd be running. I'd be funny. If it was basketball, well, the shot clock. I'd 4-corner. I'd get up 6-0 and win 8-6. But if it's football, I will bust me out some Houston Gamblers fun and gun, and we'll be all right until it gets cold, and then we'd have to run the ball a little bit. But yeah, you got spread the field, have some fun.
Okay. I am genuinely bummed. Okay, couple of other things about Kalani. I think like getting to like understand him and read about him. Didn't realize what a cool dude he is. I think everybody should go check out like his wife's Instagram and his Instagram, which are all publicly like accessible, like very normal people. I think that's fun. I do want to like shout out to the BYU fans who are now donating money to the State College Food Bank because they stole our coach, basically.
Good for them.
Or we weren't able to steal their coach. Thought that was really cool.
Good for them.
Yeah. So I thought that was fun, and like I said, I will never be setting foot in a crumble cookie again, though. At least until they have a good flavor, I think.
Yeah, I feel they're overrated, but they deliver to where I need them to deliver to, so it works.
Okay. You weren't not insomnia cookies?
Maybe I did them once too. I don't know. I forget. I just send cookies when she's going for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look at you, good guy, Steve. What else do you want to talk about? I feel like we've talked about the media aspect. You want to talk about a little bit? Go ahead.
I think for as much as I was like, I don't know what the local media did, I think this is the next few weeks for the local media. I mean, we've talked with people before about how the season's extended, right? The season ended with the bowl game. You didn't have to do anything till spring. Woo, it is not going to be that way. When they name a coach, they've got to have staff to figure that they're going to cover players transferring. So all the fine people covering the Penn State beat, appreciate your work. Just get ready for whatever's coming for you, which I'm sure you already know and don't need us reminding you. But that'll be fun cover. I mean, that's good kind of parlor stuff that we've just never really had a lot of in the past. I mean, there's the almost annual firing offensive coordinators by James Franklin there for a while. But for the most part, constructing the staff, who's keeping it and who's coming and who's gone will be fun to watch happen. I think, at least content wise for them, and it should be good business for people too. So in terms of traffic for people,
I was legitimately was thinking about that. Like at this point, who isn't subscribed to On3 or Lions 247? It's
and just watching the machinations from afar about who gets the chance to humanize someone, who finds the wife or the assistant coach or the high school coach that allows you to tell a story about who the next guy is that somebody else doesn't happen. That's the kind of fun part of watching it from the media side. So I think that'll be entertaining in the next few weeks.
I think that's fair.
Maybe sooner. Maybe by the end of this week there'll be a coach. Who knows?
No.
Is there a point where you're worried, or are we past that point?
I'm worried now. I think I'm worried because I think to me it was clear that Chesney was the backup plan, right? Like I think Bob Chesney was the backup plan. And Kraft was like, no, go ahead and take the UCLA job, basically. I think is how it played out, and because he thought that Kalani was coming to Penn State, and then like it didn't. So I just don't know. The other reason why I am worried is like kind of in a different way that the Lane Kiffin and Marty Smith being locked into the Old Miss facility was like a laughingstock. I think that Penn State has kind of become the laughingstock of the coaching search. Even if the Jimmy Sexton thing isn't true, like I don't know that I buy that wholeheartedly. But I think we've kind of become the laughingstock, and it's like, well, this whole list of people said no to you. Why should I come? And it's not a good. Nothing about this position is a good position to be in.
Right, and there's a perception that becomes reality when it's taken you this long to fill the gig.
Right.
Even if you had a plan, even if your plan was solid and then it went wrong, the reality is you're the one left standing at the dance without a partner, and everybody's looking at you out there in the middle of the floor.
Yeah, no, it's 100%, 100%. Like I said, I don't think I am not surprised that the timeline played out this way, and I think what is so frustrating about the way this played out is it was quiet. It was so quiet. There was all this build up to this quote unquote mystery man, and it seemed like it was a done deal, and it seemed like a sign. And then when it came time for the conversion, it just didn't happen. And I think that's what is frustrating. If they were still who's the mystery man, or who's there were multiple irons in the fire right now, I don't think I have as much of a problem, because I think again that was pretty explicitly stated in I want to focus on the portal. The portal is where it's at. All of these portal references, that there was very little about the recruiting class.
But you need money to play the portal game. You need free agent money more. I mean, not some come with the coach, but that's a change too. And if you're doing the building project and you've got other stuff, do you have enough there to do that?
So I think that's a good point. I think the frustrating point is, and we talked about this when Franklin got fired, there was the local narrative that Penn State was the little sisters of the poor, and there was the national narrative that Penn State was Scrooge McDuck diving into the vault of coins. And that's the biggest mystery to me. And obviously, the tax records aren't open. There are not ways that you and I could go just look that up. We'll get in about a month. We will have 2020, the 2024-2025 calendar, athletic year data, but that's still not going to include the NIL aspect of it. And it's, to your point, it's how do we keep asking for money when anytime our money has been used, whether it's with James Franklin or if it's with Pat Kraft, it's not going to use. I mean, obviously, the stadium is going to happen. The stadium is always too far gone now. That's going to happen, but it's what about the rest of the money? What about the tactical aspect of the rest of the money? And I understand why. I think there's not enough heat on that question.
I think that's fair. I mean, there's just so much to this in terms of the money piece to measure it, the personalities, the connections, There's a lot there, and I understand why someone would want to say, "Hey, I'll handle this. I'll take care of it." And kudos for Pat Kraft for wanting to do his job. From the outside, it's people are probably waiting for it to look like it's going better right now than it has in the past couple weeks.
No, I think that's fair. Speaking of money, you had an old guy, young guy about buying jerseys. What was your old guy, young guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I was thinking about old guy, young guy. Do you have a jersey that you bought of someone because this is the guy, this is the jersey I have to have, this is, and you're younger than me, so maybe the jerseys are still in the wheelhouse of people I buy to have as a fan jersey,
like of my teams.
Yeah, or in general. I don't know.
I bought a Lightning jersey last year. Yeah, I bought a Lightning jersey last year. So like it's not been that long. I'll probably buy another Lightning jersey pretty soon. Like when the Stadium Series ones. I bought that Penn State one that came in from China that was supposed to be white and it was gray. That was gray.
The hockey one.
That was a whole issue. But I mean, I was on a kick there like in high school and in college where I was buying jerseys a little bit more frequently. I haven't bought a jersey.
What was your first one? Do you remember?
Well, this was back, you had to order like a certain amount so that until they would ship it. This was like pre-DH Gate, which was like a sketchy China website. That I think I bought like 6 jerseys. They were just like, 1 week I just wore every single one to school a different day.
Were they any good? Were they any quality? You bought them from wherever?
They weren't terrible.
Okay.
I still have one of them. My Stamkos jersey is one of them. Okay. So there's that. I'm trying to think, but when the last time I like impulse purchase bought a jersey, we went to training camp last year, and they had a Pat Fryermuth jersey,
okay,
and I was like, I want that. Like he was like one of the first big Penn Staters in a while that had been drafted. Like that seemed like he was going to consistently stay on the Steelers, so bought that one. So that's my other, but that's like one per year. I don't think I bought any this year. Probably will buy a Stadium Series jersey when those come out for the Lightning, potentially, depending on what they
do. A Stadium Series one for Penn State.
Potentially would also consider that. Would only order it from China though, so that it comes in. If it's going to be white, it's gray. It's the only way I want them now.
That's fair. Very cool. I think.
What about you?
I bought a Zach Mills jersey. Well, I bought a number 7 jersey.
You bought a number 7 jersey.
Well, and I do think I don't understand. It makes no sense to me that they can't inventory stuff by number and credit it to the kid. Why does it have to have their name on it for them to get the NIL?
That's a good point.
That's the silliest thing in the world because the uniforms don't have their name on it. It's just silly.
That's a really good point. Like if you are I'm sure that's probably somebody can figure that out though. Like again,
right? If you sell a number 13 in the past 2 seasons, that's his money. So
Tony,
I bought
there's the problem right there. Is it a Tony Rojas jersey or is it a Katron Allen jersey? That's a good conundrum of it.
I guess, but I just the names are just silly because they don't have names on
Correct.
them. To me, that's why I would be embarrassed to wear something that I know isn't really, if it's a jersey, isn't really truly replicative of the jersey that the person is for whom I'm trying to.
Unless it's a 2012 Zach Winak jersey, which I don't have, but that would be.
That's true. That's true.
Like a Mahdi jersey or like
yes, right.
Gerald Hodges.
There's
that
one
specific
group.
Window.
Exactly, and that's why they did it, right? So that I could get that. But I had a Zach Mills jersey still sitting in the closet. I assume it still. I'm sure it still fits. And I probably had a Roethlisberger jersey early on, pre-Georgia stupidity kind of stuff that I think I've decided that I no longer needed. And that might have really been it. I didn't have a lot of jersey stuff for whatever reason. So,
I'm trying to think what Penn State jerseys I had. I had a 2. I think I had a 6. I had an 8. The 8 was one of the last jerseys I ever bought when they were still doing that. It was an Allen Robinson jersey. That was like the last year that they still did like numbers without like. That was kind of right before the Ed O'Bannon trial hit. Was right. when they stopped doing that.
Yeah, because then they would have went to like 3 jerseys a year.
Yeah.
Number 1,
Yeah.
number year of the calendar year, and something else, some random number.
And then they skipped 22, which was the jersey that everyone wanted. Trying to think. I have a 22 jersey, at least two 22 jerseys. I'd have 2 14 jerseys. I do have one NIL jersey. It's a Riley Thompson jersey. However, that got screwed up this year because he switched numbers to 14.
Yep.
I think what other ones. I have a Paul Plesney jersey that's signed by Derek Williams for no reason. I'm trying to think that's pretty much. Those are the only ones I can. Oh, I had a 25 jersey. There was like that, like a 2011, 10. There was like the big 20. Was it? Who was that? I forget what player that would have been. Oh, Silas Red. Duh.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, okay. That's this week's Old Guy, Young Guy, and podcast. That was fun. Probably gonna write about everything we just talked about as well. That'll be up on the blog probably before you listen to this or as you listen to this. Football season is sort of over. There's also that. So we got to start paying, not that we aren't paying attention to the other sports, but we got to start paying attention to the other sports, which will be fun. Still don't know. Lord knows now if Penn State's going to a bowl game. That's going to be interesting. We have that to worry about, discuss. And then, obviously, Penn State still needs to hire a football coach. So that's another part of this process. So all of that is to say, we're not going anywhere. I will say thank you to everyone because November ended up basically being our best month ever, which is 2 months in a row of being our best month ever. So appreciate that. Actually had more people on the website in November than we had in 2023, period.
Nice.
So I think that's very cool. I appreciate you trusting us however you want to trust us, even if it's not at all. But we do try to give you trustworthy information. And I forgot to say that I'm thankful for Steve last week. So, you good guy.
That's so sweet.
Thank
Me
you.
too.
Thanks.
Love you.
Thanks.
This is great. I didn't get all mushy. I was going to text people and call people, and I didn't do as much of it as I thought I would.
No, I texted you and said how thankful I was that the NFL has turned Thanksgiving into John Madden Thanksgiving.
I did see that.
Yeah.
I did see that.
Yeah. All right. Gave you the name of the podcast earlier. Website stuffsummersays.com. On that website, there's a section called With
Steve.
We have Christmas ornaments. Available for sale as well. You can buy those on the website at the stuff part. We've got emails. Mine's Darian at stuffsummersays.com. Steve's is
Steve at stuffsummersays.com.
Perfect. We need 5 stars. We need thumbs up. We need you to subscribe. Appreciate that everybody's subscribed. That's always fun. Lastly, you can find me on the internet at Stuff Summer Says. You can find Steve
at Steve Samsel.
See ya. Bye.